Hello everyone and welcome to Gamer Under Development. This is our inaugural Let's Play, and today we'll be playing Endless Legend, a wonderful 4X game by Amplitude Studios. The only settings we're going to change in our default settings is we're going to switch our game speed to fast and turn off the score victory condition so that the game doesn't end by turns. For our faction, we will be playing as the Necrophages. The Necrophages are an insect faction that basically want to overrun the planet. Our units are somewhat weaker than other factions' units, but we carry the potent ability Disease, which helps us bleed out larger targets. We start with both of our middle units. We get our Forager and our Necrodrone right from the beginning. The Necrodrone is an incredibly agile unit with the Disease ability, so they're really strong. The Forager is kind of your throwaway unit. You build large armies of these and just send them to die. That is right up until we get our final unit, the Proliferator, in Era 2. The Proliferator is excellent because of his parasitism ability. What that does is whenever he tags an enemy and that enemy is killed in the same round of combat, you receive a free Forager unit in that army. The catch to that is those free units can push your unit count past your limit. So if you were limited to 6 units but you had a Proliferator, you can end up with armies upwards of 21 units, which allows you to just completely overrun any enemy you want to fight. While this is loading, I'm going to talk about Amplitude Studios. This to me is like a David versus Goliath story, Amplitude being the David to Firaxis's Goliath. This company has come in, they've innovated where Civilization has chosen to iterate, they've listened to the player feedback, they've used that feedback to enhance the experience in their games. In my opinion, you should give these guys your money.
The colony was everything. They were born as one, they fought as one, and they died as one, driven by their hunger. But I hunted for something more. I stole the sentience of an ancient power and saw a greater purpose. For we were the first. Auriga is our planet. And I will turn our hunger against those trespassers who would take it from us. One day we will reign supreme on Auriga. And we will gaze up at the stars. Still hungry.
Okay, I really love those. That kind of gives me a little chill when he says still hungry. Alright, so the first thing we're going to do is turn that on, because it's going to let us see the FIDSI that each of these terrain hexes provides. Right now we have a reasonable spread of all the different types of resources we could want. Unfortunately, we do not have any nice anomalies to found our city on, so what I'm going to do is break my Foragers out into individual units, and then use those units to try to explore our surroundings a little bit. Okay, so we've got an anomaly here that produces a good portion of food, and an anomaly here that produces a good portion of dust. In our worst case scenario, we could found a city right here and be okay. But I'd rather see some of our other surroundings because we really, really want an anomaly with a happiness benefit. Well, that sucks. We're not going to be able to see the rest of our territory on this turn. And if we don't found our city soon, we're going to actually fall behind, so I'm actually going to send them over here with the intention of founding right there. What that'll let me do, though, is explore further on this side next turn with these guys and determine whether or not I actually want to build that city right there. Because we haven't founded a city, we won't need to place research, we won't need to do any of the normal things we need to do. What I am going to do, though, is before I end my turn, I'm going to go ahead and search this ruin. And we obtain Break Wall, which is a nice shield that we can actually use. So this turn our goal is to continue exploring. There we go. Oh, that's disappointing. I was expecting that to be a little bit stronger. And if we found over here, we will be right next to a strategic resource, which is great because that'll give you some extra happiness if you build a district on it. Okay, so here's how I feel about our starting region after seeing all this. One, we still don't know who our minor faction is. I'm guessing they're probably down here somewhere. Oh, that's excellent. Okay, so we didn't get the greatest starting region. We don't have any great anomalies here. We have some decent anomalies. But what we do have, and this accounts for a lot later on, is we do have a place to get glass steel and titanium right from the get-go. And we also have one of the better minor factions in our starting area. I will probably move to capture and assimilate these guys as soon as possible. It's going to take a concerted military effort to be able to do that, though, because they are very, very strong, which is why we want them. Their assimilation bonus helps us gather more resources, which is great, but beyond that, they're also some of the stronger standalone units, and we can end up using them as the basis for our army later on. I'm going to go ahead and found our city and start building our Founders Memorial. So if we leave our guy here in food, we're going to have a new unit, or a new worker in 2 turns. However, if we move over here, we're going to have a Founders Memorial in 2 turns, which will up all of our FIDSI more than having 1 additional worker, so we're going to do that. I'm also going to begin placing a glass steel and a titanium extractor. And the last thing I'll put into our queue is our first burrow. Burrow placement is very important. You want to grow your city outward, but the trick is if you surround any hex with 4 other city hex tiles, you will upgrade that city to 2. So if we put 4 tiles around our city, the city will upgrade to 2. If we put 4 tiles around one of the tiles, the district will upgrade to 2. I think the best place for us to place our first district is probably right here because it's going to give us a lot of extra production. It sucks because we're placing it right up against this stone that sort of breaks up our region, but it's still probably the better play. And we also need to set up our research. Pretty much with any faction, I tend to follow the seed storage, mill foundry, public library, empire mint strategy, except, of course, with Broken Lords because you don't really need food. I'm not even sure if the tech is available for Broken Lords. As soon as we finish those, I'm going to look into grabbing this because luxury resources will be very, very helpful to us. I'm also going to grab the mercenary market because we'll need heroes later. And I'm going to grab both of the alloy and armor technologies because the glass steel items that produces will allow us to get the advantage in military strength early on. You'll notice my hero is standing here in a garrison of 0. Now with every other faction, I'll take this initial hero and plant them as the governor of my city, but with this faction, we're going to need that hero's military might to be able to take on the Silix over here. So I'm going to send the hero directly there, which is nice because it's like shortcutting him because he doesn't actually need to move there. And then I'm going to move my second army over to join them. Our goal in the near future is to build another Forager. Now, a lot of players will prioritize the Forager over the rest of this stuff. I don't do that because I feel like once we get some more people in town, we will be able to generate enough dust to buy another Forager, which will help us get to the 3 or 4 that we need to take this city out. Lovely. Okay, so we got our first faction mission. The reward is 15 die, which is really useful for us when we're trying to build influence before social policies. They also have these nice little stories in here that are quite interesting. I haven't read too many of these for the Necrophage, and I'm obviously not going to read through them while everyone's watching, but the ones that I've read for the Cultists are really entertaining. Alright. We're going to take the hero and continue moving him over here towards the Silix. Continue moving these guys closer. Ooh, that's actually excellent for us too. If there's enough of the eyeless ones down here, it might be worth taking this territory to get them. As a faction, they're not incredibly amazing, but the fact that they heal makes a big difference, especially when late game our goal is to keep proliferators alive so that they can mass produce foragers. Everything else seems fine. We could engage right now, but I feel like if we do, we're just going to lose our units, and it's going to set us back. So I'm going to hold off on that. I may actually prioritize the Forager now that I think about it. The reason I'm going to prioritize the Forager is because I feel like we're going to need 4 to take this city, and if we're producing 1 and buying 1, we'll get there a lot faster. And I'm also going to check, we are 6 turns out from our next Empire plan. These are very, very useful, but for us, they're slightly less useful early on. The only one that's really, really effective for us is the unit cost reduction. However, I tend to rely more on the science and industry plan because the extra 20% science helps us stay up on technologies with our rivals and sometimes helps us climb ahead in military technology, which is our most important area. Okay, so if we just want this, it's going to take us 10 points. We've got 4, we've got 5 turns left, and we're generating 2 influence a turn. So we'll have 14 by the time our plan comes up, which is not going to be enough to help us get more than 1, which means I'll likely take the science one. If I can get 2, I'll also take the unit cost reduction, but I feel like if I get 1 strong army out there early, the computer won't pressure me too much. Oh, this is an interesting conundrum. Our Forager will be finished in 1 turn, but seed storage is a very, very important priority. I think I'm going to let it finish our Forager and keep building gold towards our 4th Forager, and then maybe we'll actually take these guys on with an army of 3. Our first mission, I think, takes us down here. Yeah, we still can't see the name of this region, but because there's eyeless ones in it, it's somewhat safe to assume that Amael is this place. So I'm going to go ahead and send these guys down here. So next turn I'm going to dive into this area a little bit just to scout it out while I send this unit over here to meet up with them and take out the Silic village. Alright, so our Forager completed. Break our Forager out and send him down here. It's going to take him at least 2 turns to get here. So that means if we dive 1 turn into here just to investigate, and then we dive 1 turn back out, we should be able to catch up with him. So nothing spectacular down here. We've got an anomaly that's alright. And, of course, our eyeless 1 enemies. Actually, you know what? We should crush them because we can, so we will. Might makes right. Again. The other reason it's good to kill these guys is because that does give us recycling counters, which are sort of a counter to our food malice. The Necrophages have a food malice. Every hex provides 1 less food. However, because of their recycling counters, you can counteract that by killing enemies. Once you kill 8 enemies, you'll get a food stockpile, which you can use on your city to generate a large amount of food, which will usually cause the city to grow in a turn. So we're focusing on taking out these guys just because it's part of our mission, and it also allows us to generate a couple more recycling counters. And then we're going to head back here. And we should arrive with this army and our new Forager on the same turn and be able to take down the Silics. This is our warning to let us know the Empire plan is coming up. Like I thought, we're going to have roughly 10 points, which we'll put into that science and industry. Excellent, we've already met our first AI opponent, which means they're close enough for us to murder them. But where? I don't see them yet. I wonder if they're out in the water or something, but they shouldn't have that technology yet. I'm sure they'll make their presence known soon, which will be excellent because soon we'll be ready to eliminate their presence. We've got this injured unit here. It might be better to wait until next turn to actually advance on him. However, our hero did level up, and for combat heroes, it can be sometimes tempting to take their first combat ability, but I find that it's much more beneficial to grab Indiana Bones here and then work your way over into their combat tree. This allows you to also pick up No Idle Hands, which will help you level up units that are just in an army even while it's traveling. It also gives you the option of picking up Fast Healer for your hero so that if they do get injured in combat, you can bring them back relatively quickly. And actually, I may even branch over to this side, mainly because of the health regen provided by these. As you can see, with disease, we typically don't lose units, but we do have a lot of units get injured, so anything that helps with their health regen can be really useful for us. Go ahead and save that. And I'm also going to take a look at his equipment for this, because, to be honest, the Silix could decimate us if we don't come prepared. Give him that to give him a little bit extra initiative. I find initiative to be the single most important stat in the game. Throw these on him just because we can. Actually, you know what? Forget that. I'm going to reset the changes and leave him as he is. I don't want to waste any gold on gearing him up when we need another gold for a Forager. Oh, and our Mill Foundry is available now. So let's put that at the top. Yeah, I'm going to wait another turn before I do that. Caution is the better part of valor. We have a slight advantage. I have a feeling we're probably going to lose a unit here at least. It'll be worth it to take the Silic village and be able to assimilate them later. I'm debating whether I want to play this one. Actually, I'm going to play this one manually. The big trick with Silix is that they attack in beams, so you want to try to make sure your units are not in a row like this. So I'm actually going to move him down. This will also keep him back here because I'm going to move them forward and try to basically trap the Silix in this corner and beat them down one by one. I'm going to tell this unit specifically not to move. Other three units are fine. Let's launch our attack. So we took a little bit of damage on this Forager, but we also whittled away about a third of the health, if not a little more. We only get 6 phases in this combat to end the fight. We brought him down in the 3rd phase. There's one more unit. If we can bring him down in a similar amount of time, then we should be able to conquer this village. I'm going to look at the unit order here. Okay, these guys act first, so if I try to pull these guys right here back and send them in, what I'm going to end up doing is losing an attack this turn, so I'm not going to do that. I'm going to leave this guy on risk and continue battling the Silix. Okay, after observing that last round, we can see that our Foragers aren't doing a whole lot of damage. It's mainly our hero that's bringing these guys down, so I'm actually going to back these guys out. Victory. Now for the unfortunate news. We have to rebuild this before we can assimilate the Silix. However, we did take the Silix out. We did not lose a unit. We are still standing strong and ready to move on into this area. That strategic resource bonus is excellent, and their units are absolutely excellent. Oh look, wandering healers. So we've got a Forager that's literally teetering on the brink of death. I'm going to come over here and explore these ruins, and then I might move my guys back into my territory to recover for a couple of turns. However, in the meantime, I'm going to check up here. We are 2 recycling counters away from being able to insta-grow a city. Production-wise, we are pushing through stuff. I'm going to probably move this in front of the burrows and add the Silix as something to be rebuilt. Realistically, at some point we should start building a settler. I'm actually probably going to do it before this burrow street. We need to start expanding because if the other factions are expanding, they will likely engulf most of the map. It's not a huge issue for us because we can always fight for territory, but it's nice to have a couple of strong cities producing lots and lots of resources before we have to engage ourselves in full-on war. I'm kidding, I'm not going to get dust here. I'm going to get science. I am attracted to dust in this game. It's an incredible resource, and once you have a setup for mass producing it, dust can literally win you this game. Use a hero-led army to search the location on the map. It wants to send us down here, and that is Seraton, so I'm really not that interested. Especially not since we have a faction quest to be completed here. And I'm actually not going to send them back to recover because our Foragers recovered a little bit of health already, and I think he'll be fine. But we will have another Forager coming out next turn, and I might actually just use him to explore up here. Public library in 1 turn. We just finished our social plan, so the next time we hit 5 turns until social plan, we're actually going to start building influence. Our intention there is to grab more of these empire plans because of how powerful they can be. We just finished studying public libraries, and now we're going to build them. And we're also going to bring our new Forager army out. Realistically, this Forager is incredibly weak on his own. It's risky to send him out like this, but at the same time we are only scouting, and if we lose him, it's not really the end of the world. There's a nice anomaly. Generally, anytime you see 6s on the FIDC, it's a pretty good anomaly. Oh, and that's what we were worried about. We're going to retreat, and our Forager actually managed to survive that somehow. So the Daemons here tell us that there's either a Daemon city in here somewhere, or neighboring, or in a neighboring region. So what we're going to do is retreat for right now. We want to pull these guys literally back to our city and garrison them, because if they fight another battle with demons, they're just going to die needlessly. And apparently we don't have enough movement left to garrison them yet. That's okay. We're going to need to bring these guys back up eventually, but first I want to move our faction quest forward. That is the last Eyeless One city we need to destroy. So all in all, this territory is not wonderful either. We've got a good anomaly here, a decent anomaly there, some glass steel. Nothing super impressive or imperative for us to pick up. This region, however, interests me greatly because if there's demons up there, we can capture them and assimilate them, and demons are probably the only unit that I would rather have assimilated into our empire than Silix. Demons work really, really well with our proliferators as well, because the thing that makes demons stand out is their chain lightning attack that hits not only a target, but all adjacent targets. When you start to think about that in concert with the proliferator, the fact that that chain lightning hits every target greatly increases the chance that the target your proliferator hit that turn is going to die and thus generate another forager. So that makes Daemons very, very useful for us. In fact, I would even consider running 2 proliferators in a group full of Daemons in every other slot because they can defend the proliferators and you'll probably gain foragers at a very quick rate. We easily wiped out the Casator. And now they're sending an army after our city. Or they thought they were. We're probably going to catch them and kill them relatively easy. Feeds on Bones is leveled up again. I'm going to give him no idle hands because I like the fact that he levels up your army passively. And it also helps us build upwards towards our healing, or if we decide to go this way, towards the increased garrison size. This is a really good ability for most military heroes, but I feel like with the Necrophages, because you have proliferators pushing you through the garrison cap, you don't really need it. That's why I'm probably going to work my way around here and up around and then come back to Ice in the Veins. And our city population has grown by 1, which is excellent because we generally don't raise population as quickly as other factions. And we have a stockpile. And we're going to use that stockpile. So now we're going to gain another citizen next turn. This is actually really bad for us. Winter hit when we're chasing down an army that's heading towards our capital. There's a good chance they'll reach our capital before we do and begin sieging it, which would be really terrible. As you can see, the Forager heals really quickly when they're inside of a city garrison, which is why I put him there. Yay, winter turns. Winter is one of those things that I really enjoy with this game, and one of those things that I can't stand sometimes with this game, because it really does just slow the gameplay down. At the same time, it slows growth of cities down. I feel like the city growth part of this is really good, but the movement speed decrease is kind of obnoxious. I mean, even flying units move fairly slowly during winter. Speaking of flying units, our city is nearing what I like to think of as completion. We have almost no things left to build. So I think it's about time we come up here and take a look at our Necrodrones. These guys are just like Foragers, except for a little bit more expensive and honestly a little bit better. They fly and they sweep strike back, which means that they can apply disease to multiple enemies that are adjacent to them when they counterattack. Which would be a lot more relevant if we weren't going to build them the way that I want to build them. We don't yet have access to glass steel equipment, so we're not going to be able to make them really awesome. But we can give them this, which will reduce the amount of damage they take from range, as well as making sure that they have all their tier 1 equipment. Okay, so that raises our production cost just a little bit, but it gives us a much stronger unit. so I'm going to go ahead and save that as our upgraded Necrodrone 2. And after our Burrow Street here, I'm going to begin work on our first Necrodrone army. Once we get these guys out, we'll really be able to start conquering places. Foragers really are scouts and sort of light infantry. So we just finished open pit mining, which will let us harvest some of the resources in our region, provided we have any. It's weird, my computer keeps losing focus from the game for some reason. The winter is over, so there's a good chance of us being able to catch up to that Eyeless One army. Excellent. We should be able to cut them off next turn. Our first burrow is about to complete, and then we'll begin construction on the Necrodrone army. And I have not been paying attention, so we have an Empire plan coming in 3 turns. We're currently looking at having the ability to pick 2 of these, which is actually kind of ideal for us, because right now that 20% unit cost reduction would help a lot with building our Necrophage army. We also have a new settler that I'm going to want to take up here and settle in the same region as the Daemons village, but first we need to get these guys together with the Forager unit that's hiding in the city. You are content that our relations are peaceful. Our relations are only peaceful because I have not found you yet. The nice thing is, if the Eyeless Ones were a threat, we at least have a unit in here and a lot more units on the way. This is one of the other really nice bonuses to the Necrophage, is that they require, most factions require 2 workers per district you can build, but because of their cellulose mutation trait, the Necrophages only require 1 worker per district you build, so they can expand their cities very, very quickly to engulf almost entire regions easily by the end of the game. And we are still trailing behind. They seriously just sieged my city. I think I can probably kill both of them with this 1 forager. Or my other guys can join in as reinforcements and we can just flatline them. Yay, triumph, we got 15 emeralds, which could be useful to us in the future. Like right here. Unfortunately, even with 15 emeralds, we're going to have trouble making it to the 20 that they want. Largely because we don't have any emeralds in our region. Would you look at that? Guess it was meant to be. Tal'Dreen is our new homeland. So we're here at our social plan again. We have enough influence to grab the 2 that we really want, and that's what we're going to do. It's going to be another turn before we can start invading this area with our Necrophage army. But that's okay, because once we get in here, it should just be a matter of wiping out some demons. We will probably lose Foragers in the process. That's okay, we're building Necrodrones to replace them. And now we have access to the mercenary market. As soon as we get access to the mercenary market, I like to start sort of saving on gold, and the reason on dust. And the reason for that is that we really need a governor hero to run our city. The Necrophage governors have one ability that's really worth looking at, and that is slavery. It's really excellent in cities that have a lot of minor faction cities that you can capture. In cities with very few minor faction cities, it's not really that effective, so not worth picking up now when we've only got one minor faction in our region. That means that we should be looking at some of the other heroes. Wildwalker heroes tend to have industry efficiency, which is really nice for us. But overall, I feel like the cultist heroes are some of the best governors. Cultists and the Draken are really nice too for generating influence and food, but we don't need either of those. Okay, well, we've got some turns to save, and right now there's not really any heroes that I'm particularly excited about anyway. We can also purchase units now. That's kind of useless for us because our units are relatively cheap and relatively powerful. Not to mention that we're just shy of assimilating one of the better minor faction units that you would be able to buy off of that. They return. This fight is much more in our favor. We have crushed the Daemon scum that we hope to soon assimilate. Yeah, we're going to suffer losses in that fight. A lot of losses and possibly not win. Well, it is what it is. Big trick here is trying to keep units from being adjacent to each other. If you do that, you can neutralize most of the power of the Daemons. Particularly if you take advantage of turn order, you can almost completely negate it. So, like, if these guys end up attacking after someone else, and they are not adjacent to someone else, they won't take any damage attacking them, I don't think. But we're about to find out. This is probably going to be dreadful. So you can see the disease landed right there even though we didn't do any damage. That's going to help us. That's not. I should have controlled that unit. We are about to lose a lot of units. So that was a grave mistake. Brilliant. Okay, so I have royally screwed this up. Now I'm going to try to fix it, but probably screw it up more. As long as our hero doesn't die, though, we're okay. Now we're talking. Okay, so we lost almost all of our units, but we took down a demon. If we make this, it'll be basically because of the disease. Wonderful. Well, that saved me from an almost very embarrassing loss. I'm gonna move these guys up here to finish exploring this region. Maybe we'll get lucky, there'll be another Daemons village. Well, maybe that's not lucky, maybe it is. But if there is another Daemons village up there, that would be great. That would make some of our heroes with slavery really effective. And I'm going to break this Necrodrone army out. And actually, while I'm at it, I think I'll break out the settler that was there as well. I'm feeling like this is going to be a really good region to settle one way or another. So now it's more a matter of where. I'm going to go ahead and turn on our Fidzy so we can check that. Really nice here, really nice here. I'm actually liking this area the most, except for we'd be very light on production right there. Well, we'll have turns to scout better areas, so I'm just going to send these guys up for right now. Okay, that noise is awesome. They sound like little airplanes from like 1982 or something. That's a great sound effect. Okay, so we have another Daemon village here. There's some trees up here. Still feeling like this is what we want to build around. Maybe here or right here. Probably right here. That'll let us expand out towards these river tiles that'll be really useful with some of the later technologies. So I'm going to start moving them that way and moving this military troop over here. What I'm going to do is when my settler lands here, I'm going to settle the city and then swap these Necrodrones into this army and take down the last demon village. It's kind of funny because I don't think there's that much fanfare when you win the game. So we're going to grab Fast Healer to move towards Roadside Picnic and Iron Constitution. They're going to finish moving here this turn. We have another Emeralds deposit, so we've got 2 Emeralds deposits here. Those will be really nice for meeting that faction quest. I'm going to move them up here. Our friendly settler is going to settle right here, I'm thinking. There we go. And then we're going to move the Necrodrones into the main army and attack the remaining Daemons village. So we lost the Forager, which would be really sad if we weren't building better units already. Once again, our downside is that we do have to rebuild these villages before we can assimilate the Daemons. That being said, they're also like the best minor faction units in the game in my opinion, at least for combat. We're going to build all of our basics in this city first. This is where having a governor would be really, really useful for us. But we don't have one, so instead we are going to simply queue everything up, focus on production, and be patient. I'm also going to look up here. We do have a food stockpile. Tal'Dreen is not going to grow ever? No food? Did I seriously just do that? I am a pro player. I settled us a city with no food. We'll get around that by building a seed storage. But in order to facilitate that process a little bit quicker, I'm going to go ahead and pop that food stockpile to get this city up to 2. Still got our 2 Necrodrones there. We have 2 more here. We're going to bring them out and have them join our army. It's letting us know that we now have access to the Kazanji. The influence here isn't super important for us, but like I said, these are some of the better minor faction units in the game, and we will definitely be using them. That's it for episode 1. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe. I plan on releasing videos on a weekly schedule, so there should be another one of these episodes up next week. In the meantime, please feel free to leave any questions or feedback in the comments section. And for the sake of interactivity, if you'd like to leave a city name in the comments section, I will be renaming cities in the Let's Play to names that have been suggested by people in comments.